Guess what's back? Business and Brews, where real business talk meets real people, and always fueled by a good brew. This time we're going podcast first, bite-sized, insightful, and built for conversations you'll want to share. I'm your host, Matt Pierce, founder and CEO of Immediate, and I'll be sitting down with leaders, entrepreneurs, and friends to talk about leadership, growth, and the stories that make business worth talking about. So grab your favorite brew, pull up a chair, and let's talk business the way it's meant to be talked about. Business and Brews, back, bolder, and better than ever. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business and Brews. I'm your host, Matt Pierce, and today I'm joined by Phil and Charles from American Fintech Council. Guys, great to have you here with me.
Good to see you, Matt.
Great to be here.
I was saying before we hit record, this might be the first time I've had two people on, so this should be fun to see a little back and forth. And I'll have a couple for each of you, but feel free just to jump in and answer whenever. We'll get started with coffee. You guys drinking any coffee, or what have you got going on?
Phil's always got coffee.
So I'm always drinking coffee, and the coffee is not unique. We're in fintech meetup season, so it's really about the mug for me today.
Nice fintech meetup. Yes,
Exactly.
Let's go. And I'm gonna
Right?
see you guys there on Monday.
Phil with a mustache.
That's awesome.
And Matt, I got a shout out to my daughter's coffee shop, Perk Coffee and Community in New Orleans at 628 North Rampart, right in the French Quarter. One of my passions is helping entrepreneurs, and I couldn't be happier. You know, I got my girl dad hat on as well.
Yeah.
So
wait, Charles, is that your only daughter, or you got
only
you
one?
got others?
Yep, one and
Okay.
done.
Man, that's awesome. Good for you with a shout out, and the fact that you've got I should have guessed that anybody related to you is going to have the entrepreneurial spirit. So this is cool.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for joining. Phil, I love to always get started with a little origin story. And as I shared before we got going, I've known you for a long time. Immediate is part of the American Fintech Council. I appreciate all that you guys do. It's a great partnership and a well-run organization, but two, just all around good people. And so Phil, I know that's something that makes you proud, but I was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know that I've ever heard the origin story of how you got AFC started. So can you kick us off with that?
Yeah, I would love to. And first and foremost, Matt, thanks to you and to the entire team at Immediate. I mean, sometimes there are members who tend to be more passive. The team at Immediate is not passive in any way, shape, or form. They're great partners. They're great contributors, really thoughtful and knowledgeable in your space. And it's just really an honor and a pleasure to have you and the team. And more important than all of that, I often joke, and Charles has heard me say this, we're the warm and fuzzy trait, right? We want to build connections, build real personal collaborations, and find new ways to get things done. And it's really been a pleasure to work with your team, because you guys are everything that we strive to bring inside of our fold. And so really just a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great story. And again, it goes back a long, long way. And I'll give you the abridged version. I had a whole career before I got into fintech and banking. I was a politician by trade. I worked in New York City for Mike Bloomberg when he was the mayor. I worked for Senator Charles Schumer here in New York. And I actually ran for office and served in the state legislature here in New York for almost 3 terms. When I realized it was time to make a shift and make an adjustment, and partly because my family had missed me for 15 years and they said they wanted me back, I think now they were maybe regretting that decision. But it was time to kind of figure out what I was going to do next. I really wanted to continue my public service and find a good opportunity where I can sort of take all the things that I had done up until that point and really build and continue on in the public service. I ended up joining an innovative bank called Cross River, and they were doing they were started as a traditional community bank, but we're doing all kinds of interesting things, partnering with online lenders, peer-to-peer lenders, marketplace lenders over the years. And it was really exciting because the core mission was, how do we do good? How do we increase access? How do we increase the ability for people to reach the financial services they need in a post-recession world coming out of 2008, post 2008. And so I went there really to tell the story, right? To bridge the gap between government regulators and a brand new industry that had really gotten started. When we think about earliest fintechs, you go back to 2012, 2011, there was Lending Club and SoFi and Avant and Prosper. And these were sort of everybody will tell you they were in fintech 40 years ago, right? I think modern fintech really was, sort of started post-recession. And I found that we were, at Cross River, we were really filling that void that was left behind by traditional financial services that just were no longer accessible. And I loved every second of it. And I felt like I was just right back at home. Again, it was the people, it was the energy, but really fundamentally, even the people who are in senior leadership at the bank, of course, their focus was on and how do you make sure that you're managing well and you're making money, you're profitable. But the theme was, if we do good work, we'll do well, we'll be successful, right? The money will come if your heart and your passion is in the right place. And I really kind of took that from the CEO, and it was really the great transition for me. But what I realized was after 6 or 7 years, we could do so much more, right? And we could think bigger. And how do you really sort of tell a wider fintech story? So I joined together with a lot of our partners at the time and others. There was another organization called the Marketplace Lenders Association. We had started an organization called the Online Lenders Policy Institute. And what we did was we merged them together. We took our collective resources and we started the American Fintech Council with a goal of going beyond fintech lending, right? Like that was one piece, as you all know, right? Earned wage access, but earned wage access wasn't even the next thing. It was, sort of embedded finance and it was buy now, pay later. And it was sort of like just a continuous iteration of how to better serve consumers. And I'm very proud of the fact, I joined as CEO. I was part of the board. I served as chairman of the board and then joined as CEO 3 years ago. When I joined, we were still about 80% marketplace lenders. And my goal was, let's find, like, if we're going to be the FinTech Council, we've got to adequately represent all FinTech, not just one segment of it. And I'm proud to say we went from 28 members, 80% of them or 85% of them marketplace lenders. Today, we're 171 members.
Wow.
Our marketplace lenders, our online lenders, only make up about 20% of our membership. 20% made up of innovative banks, 20% made up of earned wage access companies, regulatory technology companies, software companies. So today, we can really say we're the American Fintech Council. We represent every nook and cranny of the ecosystem, and it's just been a wild ride. And even more so in the last 3 months, getting to share it with good people, good friends like Charles, and be a part of it. Like I said, it's a vibe, and I don't mean that in in the not, it's a vibe in that, like, we're all here for the same reason. And when you do it for the right reason, you're going to do good work. And I love what we've been able to build. And again, partners like you make it that much better.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the success. I mean, I think I always look forward to the Friday email updates you guys send out. And then in between there, I see all these that just got one yesterday of another company that just joined. And so it's impressive for you and the organization, the way you continue to grow, but two, it's continued validation to us as a company that's a part of it, that like, this is the organization that we want to be a part of, and that others in the industry see value from. And so hats off to you for that. So, which is a good segue into, Charles, you've kind of been brought on in a growth focused role to help continue to grow. Obviously, lots of growth over the past few years, plenty more to come. Charles, can you tell us a little bit about kind of what's brought you here and a little bit of your background?
Phil brought me here.
Right. All the good things you're going to do.
And I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, but the reality is I've known Phil since his Cross River days. We've been very closely aligned on a number of these issues and opportunities, as well as a lot of our members in supporting what has become American Fintech Council. And I have to say that AFC's growth really is a very profound signal. It's a signal that the market is demanding a more mature, coordinated approach to fintech. A more standards-based approach. That's a part of our ethos. And so watching this, over the last few years, you said it earlier, Matt, talking about my daughter. I love the entrepreneurial spirit that is at the core of who we are. This team runs like an early stage startup. We are trying lots of things to advance this mission and this goal, and being part of that is very exciting. And it's not just about talking about the future; it's about shaping the future. And the real opportunity we have at the American Fintech Council is becoming this operating system, this environment where this collaboration can really take shape and become the place where people in the industry come to solve problems, not just discuss them. And that is just a passionate approach to growing, to improving what we're doing. And the underpinnings of it, and this is what your business is all about, is making sure those products and services that whole parts of our society depend upon are protected and are there and are strengthened. So from the policy side, that is a very profound mission. But then from the member engagement side, how do we do better? How do we create best practices and the true rising tide opportunity for this industry? So you put all that together and throw Phil in the mix, and it's just a great place to be and a great group of people to work with. As I told somebody yesterday, and Phil's heard me say this before, every one of our members, yourself included, is interested in growing and improving. Every single member. And that is just a profound position to be in we're not a normal trade association by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, that's I think that's an interesting, you said a couple of things in there that I really liked. One of which, I think it's fascinating where you guys sit, because you get to engage with high growth companies that are historically, and if most of them were asked, they would say, we like to move fast, and we're looking for ways to improve the financial well-being of Americans, and we're looking for ways to challenge the status quo. On the flip side of that, you also work with a lot of banks, and then the third triangle there is you also engage with the government. I'm really curious to hear from both of you how you guys kind of keep, I will say that the way that I've experienced it and the engagements that we've had with you guys is there's always still this optimism and this upbeat excitement about being able to figure things out. Like how do you, as you navigate those three very different types of organizations and interact with them, and probably in some days all of them on the same day, how do you kind of navigate those
So I'll get started. And Charles has sort of been in this space longer than I learned a lot of what I do today from watching Charles operate in my previous roles in my previous lifetime. But we get to build something. I mean, Matt, it's funny. And I think, what is so interesting about the American Fintech Council is that we are so aligned with our membership and that we're trying to do the same thing, right?
Right.
You're trying to build something to serve consumers. I'm trying to build something, and we're trying to build something to serve our members who are serving their consumers, right? And so we're the B2B2C. But it was just so funny on LinkedIn this morning. We posted about our trip to Albany, where we had a great trip, and we had about a dozen companies came with us to Albany. I said, Phil's back in Albany, right? Because I once served in the legislature, but with a very different constituency. And I really think about what we do every day the exact same way. I have a constituency. My job is to serve. Like, how can I do that? The way in which we keep it all together is we think about, there's two words, which my staff loves to make fun of me, that we use a lot, right? Number one is responsible innovation. We're not, I don't want to say the word is selective. We're careful about the people we let into the tent, right? We're careful about making sure they fit our culture and our style, and that they're responsible and they're thinking about that consumer, right? If we're B2B2C, we got to make sure that C is protected and we're not supporting a B in the middle that is somehow going to put everybody in a bad place. And number two is pragmatic, right? Responsible and pragmatic. Those are the two words. It's not message for message sake. It's not, yelling about something just because we can. Is it going to make a difference? Is it going to move the needle? If if AFC and our members go to Albany, are we going to make legislation move forward? Are we going to have a meaningful impact on policy? That is what drives us all the time in everything that we do. I mean, that is the core part of what makes us drive. And I think if you're honest, people see that, right? And if you're true about what you're trying to do, our membership, members of policymakers, regulators, they see that we're making an honest effort. Even those who in theory shouldn't like us, right? We get along great with consumer groups because there needs to be sort of a bridge that manages the responsible innovators rightly with the consumers. And I kind of, like I said, and I learned this from my last CEO, right? If you're focused on doing good things, people are going to see that. And I'll say, it's sort of what I watched Charles do. And I'm sorry, Charles, I apologize in advance to make you blush. When him and I used to talk, and I was, I was the member of Charles's association, right? when he would call me, it wasn't a formality. Okay, Phil, we have a committee meeting, so I have to talk to you once every third week, right? He would call me just on a Tuesday afternoon to ask me what I was doing for lunch, right? Like it was just
Right.
sort of we became very fast friends. And here's the thing. We got so much more work done because of it, right? Like it wasn't like,
Mhm.
okay, we're friends and now that's where it stops. We actually then use that to propel sort
Right.
of the work and the progress that we were able to build. And like I said, I take that mission, like I'm getting the chills now even talking about
Yeah.
it. It's why I get up every morning.
Well,
Yeah.
there's an important word there, Matt. And when you think about what you've experienced in the very upbeat, optimistic team we have, it starts with the fact that we do believe in the mission.
Right.
We absolutely, it's not just a bunch of words that you put up on some kind of mission statement and everybody goes, ooh, kumbaya. It is very serious and very important. And look, there's no going back. I mean, hundreds of millions of consumers have voted with their pocketbooks that these are very important products and services that they need, want, and desire. And we are profoundly positioned and blessed to be in this place between fintechs and the fintech banks and the service providers to support a very optimistic, goal-oriented mission. And so that optimism drives everything that we do. I mean, it really does. And frankly, it's one where I like to say responsible innovation means building products that can survive contact with regulation, customers, and scale. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of responsible
Mhm.
innovation. And it's not about slowing down innovation. It's about de-risking it early. So we are a proactive organization.
Right.
We're not playing defense here at all. We're not playing to lose. We're playing to win a very important mission. And I think culturally, just like you building with your company and the banks you work with and the other people you work with, there is mutual alignment there that is very important. And and then ultimately, when you think again, I don't want to be dismissive of the policy side and the regulatory side of it, but when you treat compliance as a competitive advantage, then you're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Very well
Right.
said.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll tell you what I also heard in there, which I think is really cool. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have you guys on with me today is because I think a lot of the times organizations like yours, people kind of get lost. I should say that the idea is lost that you guys as a high growth organization as well, and it was completely unprompted for you to talk about the mission. Right. To me, when you've got a mission and you're aligned, you're typically going to win. I had a CEO in the early days tell me, he said, the mission is not what you have. You pay some artist to come in and put a mural on the wall and in the office. The mission, you should be able to, as a CEO, pop into any meeting going on within your organization, whether it's internal or external, and you should see your mission being played out, right?
Absolutely.
So you'll see the values with which you want to see the team operate, but you'll see them pushing towards that mission. And if you do that and you see that regularly, then you guys you're heading in the right direction. And so it's fun
Yeah.
to see and hear that kind of
Well,
coming from
and
you.
and you know that it's what you do, not what you say, and that is a profound, I think, reflection on this whole team. I mean, the,
Right.
the amount I sometimes, and Phil's heard me say this, I'm like, oh my gosh, do they sleep?
Right.
It is amazing, pound for pound. Nobody, I don't know of anybody in our industry that is creating not only the volume of work, but also the volume of results. I mean, we're everywhere,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
intentional. That's
Right.
intentional.
Right. Well, Charles, you mentioned in when you were just talking about responsible innovation, and Phil, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on some of that, because you kind of alluded to it as well. When you think about the types of organizations that you're partnered with, to ensuring that they are putting out products that are responsible in the market to take care of the American consumer. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that. And then if you don't mind, while you're kind of answering that, if you can weave in a little bit of, are there things you're hearing or seeing from some of the members that kind of back that up? And you don't have to share names, but if you're talking about some of the responsible innovation, thinking about some of the things that you've been seeing and hearing from other groups that you're working with.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, you guys and the earned wage access industry is probably the best place to sort of demonstrate this in that when I first got here 3 years ago, we only had two members that were operating in the space. And I could say this because I don't think there's any state secrets, but it was Pay Active and Daily Pay were the only two AFC members that were operating in the earned wage access space. And for years, there was not a lot of progress being made on the regulatory front. And that's not to take anything away from their teams and anybody else, but there was some hurdle in the way, and no one could really understand why. At least no one from the outside could really understand why. When I stepped into it, I kind of looked at it and I realized there was sort of industry competition, right? Like there was not a good unifying entity or mechanism to get folks rowing in the same direction. And so companies, fully so, were doing what was in the best interest of their companies. And that's not bad. That's
Right.
what you should be doing, right? Our goal is to try and take it above that a bit. So again, immediately I started talking to other companies in the ecosystem, and I started talking, and probably at one point where I started talking to you, and I started talking to Earnin, I started talking to Zayzoon, I started talking to WageStream, and I started talking to other companies. And I said, folks, we can absolutely bring this together. And doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. And there are things on the business side, maybe sometimes there's competition, but that's okay, right? Like there's a lot of consumers out there, and we're all doing this a bit differently. And all of a sudden, within the next couple of months, we're able to grow the association. Today, AFC has 18 companies that are operating in the earned wage access space.
Wow.
Some, by the way, and this is sort of going back. Some of the best part is some of them got into it by learning from members in the association who are willing to share, right? Members who were not maybe offering the product, but got on the phone with you and got on the phone with others, and you guys have just been great collaborators in terms of like, we want a sound ecosystem. Any one bad actor can ruin it for everybody. So anybody who's going to step in this space, we want to help them do it the right way and make the right decision. And so immediately that year was the first bill that we got passed was in Nevada. Everybody was rowing in the same direction.
Right.
Literally, I mean, it was, again, I get the chills going back to that year when that passed. It was sort of just overwhelming that like, oh my God, look what we can accomplish. It's only been 3 years. We've already passed bills in, I think, 13 states now. And we've been, working in probably 25 more, and we're making meaningful progress day after day. And it's amazing. And here's the best part is, they say, if you build it, they will come, right? We get sort of folks who are coming into our ecosystem who want to be a part of that, partly because of the policy and the reg, right? We talk about that a lot. And sometimes, there's two value propositions to a good association. It's the policy, it's the regulatory side, but it's also the cross-pollination and the network effect that we've built. Right. And I always find, regardless of why a member comes through the front door, they always take advantage of another side, right? And so, we say like earned wage access companies are now spending time talking to our embedded finance and vast banks, right? Like this is the beauty of it is that you're building relationships that will inevitably enable your company to grow. And we see it again. It was earned wage access, but we just added a brand new board member. It's not public yet. It'll be public next week, but we just added a brand new board member, another prominent bank in the space. And so we continue to grow, but we want to make sure that we're diverse, we're meaningfully representing each industry. And this is sort of goes to the heart of where Charles comes in. It's because I think, as as you grow your company, you don't want to lose that, right? As the company grows, we went from 2 employees to now we're 10. Like I 30 members to now 100, over 150. Like, how do you maintain that ability to touch everyone, right? Like we still want to do that. And so we don't sleep, unfortunately. But like, again, as we grow, we don't want to lose our culture. And I think a lot of, again, learning from our members, how have they solved for those problems?
Absolutely.
How can we make sure that we want to keep growing in the right way, but not lose touch of what we're trying to accomplish and the culture that we bring to it?
Right.
Matt, I think if you take your question as a bridge, how do you go from like what is responsible innovation to what are our members talking about, asking about? You go from reinforcing this concept that in practice, governance, transparency, accountability are all designed into an entity and an organization, a business, not just bolted on later. So what you get are members or prospective members who are saying, hey, not just can we partner, but how do we partner in the right way? Right? How do we learn from one another the right way to do these things to ensure that we're building durability, not only in our businesses, but in the industry? And so I think this stuff goes hand in glove from having a very standards, philosophical, mission-based approach to what are the things we can do to help our members and the industry.
And I should have said that as well. We kind of put everybody around a conference table early on in our growth, earned wage access specifically. And we said, okay, what are the standards we can all agree on? What are the tenets of this product that we can all agree on? And we looked at every possible iteration of it, whether you're direct to consumer, whether you're business integrated, whether you're a subscription model, whether you had a tips built in. We wanted to really make sure, look at everybody and then build a document that everybody could feel comfortable at sharing with policymakers and regulators. And today it lives up on our website. I'd say I'd say, but once a year we go back and we look at it and we say, is it still, is it meeting the test of time and the feedback and the criticisms that we're getting? And it's iterative, right? Our goal is to keep improving and getting better to ensure that we can go home at night, look in the mirror and say, hey, we are accomplishing something. We're doing something good here for the consumer and building a whole new emerging industry.
Right. Well, and I'll agree with all that you've said, because the collaboration, it's weird. It's a weird feeling when you go from competing with people to then stepping into a room with them and kind of having to, and I do think it's usually like the first couple of meetings, you're a little guarded, and then you kind of get in there and you look around and you're like, wait, everybody's just speaking freely. Like this is something that, we're not in here sharing trade secrets, but we are trading some best practices and trying to do something that helps all of us align to ensure that ultimately we're all putting the best product out in the market. And then what happens is you get to, when you go in and you compete, you go, all right, we've kind of established the ground rules. Now it really comes down to who's going to be able to provide the best service and, meet different needs of different types of business or like entity or individual. And so I think it's done a lot of really good, for the industry as a whole. So I applaud you guys
in
for
the end,
that.
Matt, I think one of the most important things that we can do is be that trusted advisor, be that trusted space where that can happen, where behind closed doors, there is a chance for you and your peers to really understand what it means to be responsible, and what are the best practices that are going to strengthen this ecosystem, because it is an ecosystem. You talked about kind of the three distinct pieces of the puzzle that we're integrating with, but it is this ecosystem that we have to cultivate, and that has to have some trust associated with it.
Right. Well, we're coming up on 30 minutes. I'd love to, as we kind of wrap it up here, I'd love to hear some just high level thoughts about what you guys see coming over the course of the next 9 months. When we think about, it's hard to believe we're wrapping up Q1 here, and I guess actually when this will release on April 1st, and so we'll be starting Q2. So would love to hear what you guys are thinking and expecting to see over the course of the next few quarters.
So, I think that obviously, as you have mentioned already, we always come at it with a certain sense of optimism. What can we build, right? We try to take the politics out of it, right? We're trying to build products that are, that are Teflon when it comes to the product, when it comes to the politics, right? The goal is to build, sustainable, meaningful products. And I think I think you hit it right on the head. I think we've got 9 months to really kind of build what we can, but then most importantly, it's got to have time to set and to cure, right? Like whatever we build has got to have time to really sink in and become institutional. The world sort of has been very, very pendulum-like in that, you kind of feel like you're getting it up and then you're getting it down. And sometimes, sadly, political ideology is playing into that. And it shouldn't. Let me be clear, it shouldn't. But now, if we recognize that that's the way the world is operating, then we as an industry got to do a better job of solidifying ourselves and solidifying the things that we're building and giving them a chance. And so, this is not about, let me just be clear, because I think a lot of the things that we work on today and that we advocate for today, we advocated for 2 years ago, right? Our positions haven't changed because of what's happening in the White House. We don't think about our standards because of different agency leadership. We've tried always to have an open dialogue across the board. And so we need to do a better job as an industry of really solidifying some of the things that we've built, and whether it's in buy now, pay later, or earned wage access, or embedded finance, or fintech lending, there's a lot of irons in the fire, and we are optimistic that we are going to get some significant wins over the next few quarters. And then the real test of, okay, guys, we've got our wins, we've got our marching orders. Now we've got to go run it responsibly. And I just heard a fintech company that applied for a bank charter and said something I thought was really well said, was that we are going to be of the first that are now, I mean, a lot more are coming, but we're going to be of the first. So we have a responsibility to do it right.
Absolutely.
And so we have to think about compliance first. We have to think about our risk. We have to think about how we're going to engage with regulators. And I was like, wow, because once upon a time, you look back and sadly, some of the bad stories we've heard throughout sort of the evolution of fintech, whereas just move quick, break everything and do the, and try to maximize profit. I think more companies, and I say, like, I give my team credit, more companies are coming into the ecosystem saying, hey, I want to do it right. I want to have lasting power. I want to build a solid foundation. You got to let the cement cure if that's going to happen. And so I think we're going to get some of those wins, and you're starting to see it already. I'm optimistic we'll get more. And then we've got, a couple of years to really sort of solidify that and make sure that we're doing it right.
Yeah.
Look, the banking fintech relationship over the next few years is only going to become more important, more valuable, more necessary to advance the needs that, again, hundreds of millions of consumers in this country depend upon. And I think what that means, to Phil's point, that we're going to see is tighter relationships, deeper relationships, relationships that are clearly oriented around clear roles and responsibilities as part of this ecosystem that we're continuing to foster here. And that means this very profound combination of innovation and trust is ultimately what is going to win out. And our job every day is to ensure we stand at that inflection point to help provide guidance and support and direction to those things.
That's awesome. Great way to end it. Thank you guys, both of you, so much for being on here. I think we could probably keep going for another 30 or 40 minutes. I don't even think we scratched the surface on all the things we were going to cover. So maybe later this year Let's have you do it again. Back on, and we can keep going. Also, since we'll all be together the first part of next week, we'll see if we can get together and get a picture of the three of us, and that can be what the post goes out on Wednesday to announce us. So we'll try to make that happen on Tuesday.
Absolutely, Matt. You know that Phil and I love.
Well, Charles more than me. Charles more than me. We've had to change our internal policies about selfies when we hire Charles.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Safe travels. Looking forward to seeing you guys early next week, and thank everybody for listening and joining us, and look forward to the next one. Thank you guys.
All right. Appreciate it.